It was terrifying, not being able to breathe. They called someone in, she looked at the images. There they found out that my heart is failing. My heart was enlarged. When a heart is enlarged, its function starts to diminish. They're like, okay, we're gonna take the load off the heart a bit and put him on this machine called an ECMO. So 2 weeks, I'm asleep, I'm in a coma. And I was like, okay, what's gonna happen next? We're gonna go to the US, get a heart transplant. Heart transplant, that's where I paused. I was like, what do you mean heart transplant? They're like, oh, they're gonna take out this heart, put another one in. I was like,
did it feel real or did it feel like a death sentence?
good question. When I got the call, I did start thinking like, wow, so someone had to die right now for me to get this second chance at life.
How did that make you feel?
Responsibility is something that I started thinking about. This person's death is my responsibility in the sense of making it worth it.
Do you know anything about the donor?
We can always send a letter. I just now sent that letter after 7 years. Now I have something to show them. Now in my letter, I told them, I'm the recipient of your loved one's heart. I took very good care of it. I'm going to medical school and I'm gonna help people do the same. What if that person wanted to be a doctor? What if now I'm them?
I heard that there's a girl in your school that also had a similar case.
Yes, Zaharat. She passed away a year after. So she had a complication with her transplant. We had the same aspirations. We have the same motivation. We knew each other's struggles.
I'm pretty sure when you got accepted to med school, you thought about Zaharat.
She was in my personal statement. I'm personally living both of our dreams at once. Oof.
There's stories that you come across that leave you speechless, that make you very emotional. And the story that you're about to listen to right now is exactly that. Without going into too much details, Mohammad at 15 started having heart complications, ended up needing a heart transplant, and he moved to the United States to make that heart transplant possible. Now, there's a lot of nuances and there's a lot of details, and we're going to get into all that. But I want you to reflect, as you're listening, reflect back on your own life. This is a story that is going to be a part of your life moving forward, just because of how strong and profound the lessons to be learned and what Muhammad is about to say is. I also wanted to thank you for taking the time out of your day and giving this podcast to listen. And to grow this podcast and make it the best it can be, I need your support. The only support I'm really asking is for you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Like this video, comment and let me know what you think. I promise I'm going to do my best to make this the best podcast and the best show it could be, to tell stories like this all the time. With that being said, let's get the show started.
Welcome aboard Middle East Airlines.
والمتوجهة إلى
طيران الشرق الأوسط يرحب
مدينة القدس العربية.
Muhammad, welcome to Not From Here.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Muhammad, the way we started off always is you introducing yourself in the way that you see yourself.
Okay.
So when you look at yourself in the mirror, who do you see?
I see Mohammad El Souri, a brother, a son, a student. I see someone who can't wait to start his journey to endless possibilities. I see someone who's been through a lot and is content with where he's at. I see someone who has accomplished a lot but still has a lot to work towards. And yeah, I kind of don't wanna say too much at the same time. I keep some stories for later and not reveal too many. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of what I see.
A lot of times the follow-up question to that is, how did you end up here?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's not a simple answer for you.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes into it.
Yes.
So let's start with the story from the beginning. If you had to, knowing what you know now and everything that you've gone through, if there was a starting point, like a day zero, the pilot, what's that day?
I love this question. The pilot would be winter of 2018.
Okay.
Or actually 2017, because it was New Year's then, transitioning into 2018. That would be when things started. That would be the official story. Because at that time is when I started feeling things starting to change. That's when the symptoms started showing up, when the confusion started. And from there on, kind of life took a huge turn. Shall we get into the details?
Okay, so that's a great explanation of the pilot.
Yeah.
How was the days right before the pilot? How did your life look like?
I like to say, like, from a childhood standpoint, it
Yeah.
was probably the best times I was living ever. I was achieving very highly at school, which is which is something I pride myself with and I enjoy a lot. I was hanging out with my friends often. There was no such thing as worry. I know that's like with childhood that's normal, but with me specifically at that point, there was no worries or something that's hanging over my head that's kind of getting in the way of me enjoying life. I was studying, I was just hanging out with my friends. Everything was just great.
You were normal.
Very normal. which is great. Yeah, I appreciated my normal good life, you know. So that's kind of what it looked like. There are some details that I would contribute to the story before the pilot that I stated, but I would not consider those the pilot.
Okay.
Yeah. Some factors that I contribute as the cause, but I wouldn't say those are the pilot to my story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, for people who are listening who don't know,
Yeah.
this is a story of a heart transplant.
Yes.
Yeah. So, just in case someone's wondering, like, what are they like pilot?
Yeah.
A heart transplant.
Yes.
Straight up. So let's go into it. Let's start with pilot.
Let's do it. Okay. So, in the winter of 2017, I started getting these symptoms. I initially thought they were just a cold. And I was, let me see. The reason we thought it was a cold because I just felt off. It wasn't necessarily cold symptoms, but we didn't know what else they would be. So the symptoms were shortness of breath, fatigue, a lot of sleepless nights due to the shortness of breath. I would not be able to sleep lying down. I would have to be propped up in order just to breathe. A lot of coughing, a lot of just this, I felt lethargic, no energy, my limbs were kind of swelling at some point. Things just felt not like, that's why I say it's a complete turn, because if people that know me attribute me to like energetic and just like someone who has a lot of life, and then to go into that it showed that something was completely wrong. And in Lebanon, it's not so easy as to I felt like the education towards with medicine there is very different than here, where there you probably may know they go to a pharmacist and ask the pharmacist, for example, to prescribe something for their symptoms without going to a doctor, for example, like, hey, give me something for this. We did that approach, for example. Didn't help. We went to my pediatrician. Then we told them, hey, what's going on? These are the symptoms. He asked us to go get some imaging. We did. We got an X-ray at that point. Just that. He was concerned. I felt like he knew something, my pediatrician at that time, because and it's a short story, like he was the pediatrician for my older siblings. I'm the youngest. From my sister to me, he's seen us. So like there's a 30-year relationship there. He felt something was off. He told us to go get some like specific imaging for the heart. I don't know why, subhanallah, we didn't do that. Something told us, let's go somewhere else. And to add to that Lebanese mindset too, because we ended up going to someone who's a relative of my mother's. He's I believe a pulmonologist, I think. We showed him the X-ray. He's like, oh, it looks like pneumonia. So he gave us some medications for pneumonia. I finished that course of medication. It didn't help. Nothing changed.
The symptoms kept like persisting.
Worsening.
Okay,
yeah,
worsening.
Worsening, okay. Absolutely. I'm telling you, the worst part was just imagine you not being able to breathe as soon as the angle changes. It was terrifying.
Like you would be sitting like this. If you change the way you sit, oxygen doesn't go in.
If you go a bit back, like just to touch, and First, also people who know me, I cannot sleep sitting up. It's impossible to me. Like on the plane, for example, I cannot sleep in that position. Even just lying down, I can't sleep sitting up. So it was a nightmare to me to not be able to lie all the way down and sleep on my head. But yeah, if you go down, it feels like not enough oxygen is coming in. It's just there's nothing in there. So you'd have to sit up and just figure out a way to fall asleep.
Because you do like, but the oxygen wouldn't.
I'd have to there's times where there's a need to take a full deep breath just to kind of feel like there's something going in. Yeah, that was the case then.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So he tells you have pneumonia,
Mm-hmm.
gives you that medication.
Yeah.
You go through that cycle,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work. Then what you guys do?
Then when things kind of reached the tip point where my legs were swelling, kind of my whole body, I was kind of gaining weight, but for no reason. We didn't know what that was. Then we finally decided, hey, let's go to the hospital. So if we were here, we would have gone to the hospital first shot.
Yeah.
But then we took a few extra steps to get there.
What's the time frame from you going to your pediatrician to you going to the hospital?
I'd say approximately 10 to 15 days.
Okay.
Yeah. And granted, worsening symptoms daily from day one to the last day. So we got to the hospital, went to AUH, American University Hospital. There they started doing those heart images and testing that we should have gone and done from the first place. They did an EKG, they did an echocardiogram, just some ultrasound of the heart and stuff. Okay. And there, because they saw how my shortness of breath was severe, they had an oxygen mask on me and all that. There, it was a weekend, and they had to call in someone, a cardiologist, to come look at the images. They were going to push me, so I think I went there Saturday. They were going to push me till Monday until a doctor is available to look at the images and stuff. My mom refused. She kind of stood her ground. She's like, someone needs to read this right now. There's something wrong. SubhanAllah, she's if it weren't for that. So they called someone in. She looked at the images, and it was there, clear. My heart was enlarged. And when a heart is enlarged, its function starts to diminish in the sense of the pumping starts to decrease. And so if there's less pumping, then less oxygen is reaching the body. And so that starts explaining the symptoms. And from there, they're like, oh, that's it. He definitely needs to be admitted, because there they found out that my heart is failing. So that kind of began this whole thing.
What did you think it was during this time?
I had no idea.
You just, no clue.
I was like this,
Yeah.
I was sick.
Your parents, their morale. Did you guys go about it just, if your brother, for example, now has the flu, and it took a long time for him to heal, is that the way you were going about it?
Yeah, pretty much. It's something. Yeah, it took something that took longer than it should be. Yeah.
But you're not going to the hospital with any expectations.
No, absolutely not. Not what we found out.
When they start putting the oxygen mask on and they start scanning your heart, is there a heightened level of anxiety? What's happening? You're 15, you were just talking about 15, the normal childhood. At 15, you weren't thinking about, I'm putting this oxygen mask on, my body's getting bigger.
I felt very numb for one reason, and that is because of how tired I was. I was so tired to the point that thinking was exhausting to some extent. I wasn't thinking at that point. I was just receiving whatever was given, and just trying to not fall apart, I guess, in the physical sense. The thing is, with lack of knowledge plus, and I was pretty patient then as well, so I kind of did not react until we kind of got more concrete decisions or concrete I guess, yeah. So no, not. I wouldn't say, oh no, I was anxious. I was simply say I was tired and numb at that point.
And they tell you your heart is failing.
Yeah,
Do they tell you that first, or do they tell your parents first?
that's a good question. I did not know anything until very much later. Very much later.
So they just talk with your parents.
Absolutely. That's something that I want to. That's something for my future aspirations as a physician. Is something I want to work on because yeah, I had zero clue what was going on.
So they tell your parents his heart is failing. What do they tell you?
Then my mom would have to explain it for me, and she obviously would just use the terms, "Oh, you're just very sick. They want to treat you for it. Just take it." It wasn't necessarily, "Oh, your heart is weak," and she would say that, but obviously I wouldn't understand, you know. But yeah, and then for those major decisions, there was a reason why I wasn't told stuff. I'll get to the story now. But for those major decisions, yeah, I had no idea what happened until after it happens.
Was it because they were afraid that if they tell you news of that magnitude, your heart actually might worsen? Or
I don't think so. I think they just, I think they just talk to the parents before the child, I guess, or they don't really unless the doctor makes an effort to communicate things to the child, they just won't.
But why is that important to you that you want to break that when you're a physician?
Because it starts making sense to the patient. Like as a child, to me, if I wanted to understand what was going on and to know what happened and then what will happen, instead of simply just being patient to whatever treatment I was given, it adds just this. I want to make sure that even if it's a child, whether 5, 10, 15, whatever language I need to use to tell them, I'm going to tell them what's going on with them, just to keep them in the loop, to show that we are there and we're aware that they are the patient and that they are heard, they are seen.
Did you feel like you weren't seen?
A lot of times, yeah, honestly. Especially, and I say this again, especially in Lebanon, because I don't know, I guess these aren't they are important to certain doctors, absolutely, but some may prioritize it less.
Right.
Some may not find the need to it. And not to specifically say Lebanon, that can exist anywhere. I've seen it here, Lebanon, you know.
Yeah. So your mom starts telling you little by little.
Mm-hmm.
When do they break the news to you, like, this is what you have? How later after your hospital visit?
When I wake up after the first surgery is when I start understanding
really?
things.
Okay,
yeah,
then
yeah,
let's go back a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. So they tell your parents you have your heart is failing. What are the next steps after that?
They took me to the NICU. It's called the neonatal ICU, which is, I shouldn't have been there. I was kind of older than that age range. It's for those newborns that are. They had me, and essentially it's in an ICU. You know what I remember most about those moments? I remember how thirsty I was. I was so thirsty, and my mom would attest to this. I was always requesting something to drink at that point, because so that swelling that I was talking about, it was essentially water. So water was swelling in my body as a result of the heart failing. That's one of the symptoms. And they didn't want me to drink any more water because there's already a lot of water in my body, but at the same time, I'm extremely thirsty, and they wouldn't give me any water. So I remember having that fight with the nurses about it. And then let me go back to explaining why it's so important to talk to like even a child about what's going on. They had me put a not simply just an oxygen mask. I think it's called a CPAP. I don't know what the full term is, but it's those thicker masks that go in, and I think there's some medication in there that's kind of helping you breathe. I was terrified of that. Because they're like, okay, yeah, we're gonna put a mask on you now, and I at that point I was terrified. When I know I was 15, but it was still scary to go through that. And then they would not. I was like, wait. I remember fighting physically with the person trying to put it on. I was like, wait, just what is this? I don't know. I just did not want to put it on.
You just want to understand too.
Yeah, and they kind of like force it on you, and I remember a lot of those moments. That's why I really want to work on that, because like, why would you go through that fight with a patient when simply you can just explain what's going on?
Right.
Yeah.
So they take you to this ICU.
Yeah.
Okay.
From there, my memory is hazy. From
Okay.
there, I start depending on stories.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because so I was told is my heart essentially continued to worsen. It was not getting any better. They tried a lot of like less intensive strategies to kind of like, or methods to kind of fix it. They weren't working. So at some point they're like, okay, we're gonna take the load off the heart a bit and put him on this machine called an ECMO. I also forgot the full term for that, but an ECMO essentially, it acts as the heart but outside of the body. So they essentially take the circulation from the heart to this machine, oxygenate the blood, take it back in. And to those in the medical field, it's a pretty big deal to go into that. It puts a lot of strain on the body, and they don't want people to stay on that for long because there's like effects that comes afterwards. I believe I was on that for 2 weeks. So 2 weeks, I'm asleep. I'm in a coma. So there I'm unaware.
You're turned off.
I'm not there. At least that's what I was told. I remember these moments.
Why would you? Why would you
need to go
Yeah.
on there? That I'm not sure. Medically, I'm not sure why. But I remember that they told me that they were feeding me themselves, like with
So there's just a moment where you don't remember anything anymore.
a big chunk, yeah. And it's a very important moment because that's where like what my family went through. I have no idea what they went through in that moment. Like the big decision was then what to proceed with. A lot of things happened then that I needed to be told after. Yeah. I remember waking up just after that moment. I remember moments where I was still intubated, so I was writing notes to people to communicate. I remember some of those moments. It's funny now because I was also, there's a lot of things that despite that I was still not aware of. Like some people would tell me, "Oh, I was there in the hospital. You were talking with me on that notepad." I did not know, no memory.
Do you remember how your parents felt at that time?
They told me how they felt, and honestly, what I went through is one thing, and what my parents went through is something completely different. Yani,
What did they tell you?
so there were several challenges in the hospital in the sense of, one, their son is going through this, and they're highly uneducated on what was going on. I was just telling you, we had no idea what these symptoms were that it could lead to this. So imagine now they're telling these parents, okay, your son's heart is failing. This may not end up well. We need to do something right now. So this is what they were being told. Because they told me like they would take them into like an empty conference room with just the doctor and tell them all this. And my dad till this day tells me I have no idea how they have no idea how they remained stable at that point, because it was a lot. And another challenge was insurance. So what we knew is my dad was fully covered. He's an engineer, there's an abe there. Everything was fully covered. And then one day we need to do that one major surgery that I'm gonna talk about, and they're like, oh, you need to pay this full amount, which is like in the hundreds of thousands, before he can get the surgery. And so that was another challenge. I'll get into the details in a bit, because there's some
Hundreds of thousands of dollars?
Yeah. And that's just from what I was still 10 days in, maybe less, 2 weeks ish, kind of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the insurance kind of capped, and now things were adding up on the side. So that was another challenge that, again, I was unaware of.
Do you ever feel like you have this idea that you want to portray to the world, or the story that you want to tell the world, but you simply don't know how? You try to post online, there's so much good content out there, and there's so many people that are doing it and that are more experienced, that your content or your story just gets lost. It doesn't stick. And that might make you feel like your story isn't worthy, but that's not the truth. Actually, most people go through that, and their story are worthy of telling. You just need the right strategy and the right tools to put that story out correctly. That's exactly why I'm at Keep Creating. We're here to help brands and people build a social presence, create a powerful video, and create a brand identity that feels like you. This is what we do every day. We don't just create content. We make sure that the story that you're going to tell sticks with people. And because you listen to Not From Here, if you reach out and mention the podcast, you're going to get a discounted first month. And I'll make it easy for you. I'll leave the link to the application in the description. As you're applying, you're going to find that section where it says Not From Here. Click on that and hopefully we'll work together soon. And now back to the episode. But it had to be crazy for them because they're walking into a hospital thinking our son just has a cold or a flu, and then their world changes upside down.
Mm-hmm.
Like you get intubated, you go down,
Mm-hmm.
but for them, they're like, they look at you and you're not there,
Mm-hmm.
and you were just fine like 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
So that has to mess with their mental state somehow.
Absolutely. Especially my mom, because at the end of the day, my dad would go continue working. She was there at all times. And again, I say one challenge is me trying to focus on my treatment. The other challenge is just looking at her sleeping on those very uncomfortable sofa chairs. The 3 months that lasted me in the hospital, 3 months, and that's a lot. that's a lot of time to stay in the hospital.
And she was with you for those 3 months there.
Absolutely. Maybe she went twice to the house throughout that time. Yeah.
How many siblings do you have?
3,
Okay.
all older. Yeah.
All older.
Mhm.
So you're the youngest.
Yes.
Wow. So it's even more like the youngest child going through all of this.
Yeah. My sister, though, she was my brother and sister were they both have moved here by then. My sister, I remember she came to visit when I started going through that. And that was honestly, it was so good to have her there. It was like a fresh, some fresh energy to have. Honestly, I appreciated having my sister there. Honestly.
It feels heartwarming when, not just when your sister visits, it's the idea that she traveled,
Yeah.
and she made it.
Man,
and
I did not want her to leave.
And it's that like the whole scenario is unusual and everything is new, and then you see this very like familiar face that you haven't seen maybe in a while.
Absolutely. And especially because she surprised me too. I was telling you, a lot of the time I was kind of hazy. I had no idea what was going on, and then I'd see these new characters popping up. That was a lot of what I was going through.
So you go down. They put you on the ECMO machine.
Yes.
You're in a coma for 2 weeks.
Yes.
How do they wake you back up? Why would they wake you back up?
Okay. So that decision that they needed to make was to proceed with a surgery that would implant a device in my heart that would essentially help it to pump.
Okay.
And that's called an LVAD, a left ventricular assisting device. And this is where the part of the story starts getting nice, where one can't help but say subhanallah. So the doctor that did this surgery, okay, he was a cardiothoracic surgeon. I'm going to throw his name out. His name is Dr. Jamil Bourji. Dr. Bourji was a cardiothoracic surgeon here at Henry Ford in Detroit before he moved to Lebanon. 2 weeks before I was admitted. For him to... So, subhanallah, it's like it was orchestrated so that he could get me as a patient, because he was brought in to like open this new floor for cardiology there, and the surgery, the LVAD, it was done in Lebanon before. It's just not as popular or as frequent as they do it here. So there were people who obviously would know how to do it, but obviously Dr. Bourji, having come from here, he's very much specialized in doing this surgery.
Yeah.
I remember my mom telling me that when he saw me, he told her directly he needs this surgery right now. Like he knew what, like, so while other doctors were kind kind of still puzzled where to go with this, what to do. He's like, what are we waiting for? He needs to do this right now. And so I remember, so the thing with the insurance again, my uncle came to visit as well, in addition to my sister from America. They called the American embassy then. They're like, hey, this is an American citizen. They're doing this, this, and that. They're not letting him get the surgery. Can someone help us?
So you were American citizen?
I was, yes.
Okay.
That was the biggest card that I had, alhamdulillah. But I was born here, but I was raised in Lebanon for my whole life, like 15 years in Lebanon.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they called the embassy?
They called the embassy. They're like, can anyone help us with this? There's this obstacle. They're not letting us do the surgery. And then the consulate came to the hospital herself, and I remember my mom telling me she went to Dr. Buri. She started yelling at him. She's like, why aren't you doing the surgery? He's an American, you're an American. And then he looked at her, he's like, I'm ready to do whatever you guys want there. It's like the financial aspect of it. It's like I remember she went down with my dad to the financial office, and they figured it out. They told them start, and they figured out the payments. And then I was in.
Did they just did they do it for free, or
no,
did they figure something out?
My dad was. The thing is, I don't understand what the problem was, because I was told in one sense, like, the money, it's like that was available. They wouldn't let us pay. I didn't understand the exact story. Again, I heard a lot of perspectives, so I still to this point did not get it. But alhamdulillah, it worked out. We figured out installments. They wanted the full amount there at once.
Okay.
And I guess they wouldn't let us negotiate installments.
Okay.
That's when the embassy came in.
Okay.
Helped us with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
The consulate visiting the hospital, you guys were probably surprised. Why is the consulate, like, we just reach out to the embassy, and now all of a sudden the consulate is here negotiating our payment plan?
I remember my mom was like, people started cleaning up. People were like dressing up for it. They're like, oh my God, it's a big deal. Like, so, and that's something with Lebanon too. It's like they won't stand up straight until like there's like this authority figure there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was such a random thing too. I was like,
because you're just reaching out to the embassy for some type of help.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want, like, I don't know if they do this with
I was confused as to how they thought of that, honestly. And I was further confused when someone actually came in and and kind of fought with us for it. That's, I don't know, subhanallah.
So after they figure out that you're good to go?
Went into surgery.
Okay, but here you're still under coma. You don't know the consulate. You don't know any of this stuff.
I woke up with the device next to me.
Okay.
So this LVAD, it's essentially a pump inside, but then a wire goes out into this bag with batteries and stuff.
How does the wire go out of your body?
So from here, it goes, like, it's right under the skin through, they have a hole here, and then they take it out, and it's connected to this pump here also.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is risky too, obviously. Like, there's this protruding wire. But so I woke up, I was like laying down, this bag next to me. What is this?
So, I mean, you wake up, what's the first thing you see?
This bag.
That's it.
And my family, obviously.
But were you, like, conscious when you woke up? Were you a little...
Obviously hazy at first. Still coming out of the anesthesia.
But, like, this is what trips me out a little bit. You had a phone back then? Like, to me, it's weird because on your phone, for example, here it says, like, Saturday, May 24, right? The last time you saw this was, like, maybe... like, May 10th. If you were down for 2 weeks, like, do you look and be like, wait, what happened?
Jaafar, remember when I was saying how I felt like kind of numb and too tired to think when it first started? Subhanallah, and I tell my mom this, I had this sense of calm all throughout my treatment. Rarely did I ever overreact or even react to that extent. So it would be expected to, like, be confused, which I was, but to be confused, to be like, where am I? How did I end up here? To be anxious as a result of that. I did not have that. I did not I did not experience that at all.
Okay.
I don't know why. I was very much kind of like okay with everything that's going on.
So they tell you you've been gone
Mhm.
for 2 weeks.
Mhm.
What's your response to that?
Okay.
Like what's happening? At this point, you still don't know.
I
you have
did.
a
I
heart
didn't want to
issue.
know what that was. The device that was there. I did question about that. Like, is it staying on forever? What's the deal?
Does your mom break the news to you that you have a heart? Your heart is failing.
Um, her first, and then the doctor explained the bag more.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of stuff. Again with these moments, I still vaguely remember. So sometimes when I'm telling you the story, there's some details I will struggle to kind of come up with, because of just me not being fully aware of what was going on.
You know, wrapping your head around that at 15 has to be difficult.
That's what I mean. I expected it. That's what I expected. I don't know. I came out of it very much content. I don't know why. I'll tell you this, and I told my mom that not 1 second throughout my whole treatment in the hospital, my whole hospital stay, not 1 second did I think I was not gonna make it. I was very much trusting that I'm gonna come out okay. Maybe that's why I was very I was very receptive to the treatment, maybe. Um, my only struggle with the hospital stay was this the stay itself. That's when the 15-year-old came in. I was very much bored. A lot of days, I was just waiting for, I guess, my heart to stabilize. I got this random fever that they did not all the infectious disease doctors in the hospital all came to see. No one knew why I was getting these fevers. Those beat me up a lot, those fevers, because I would have to put a lot of ice bags just to kind of help with the fever, and these are just the annoying parts. And then it's like the heart stuff were secondary to these complications, you know.
But did your heart get better after that surgery?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And just they were waiting for it to stabilize. So that's when I started asking, okay, then what? What's next? I remember that's where my uncle came in. I was like, okay, what's gonna happen next? He was like, oh, we're gonna go to the US, where you're gonna get a heart transplant, and you're gonna continue life there. I was like, hold up. Heart transplant. That's where I paused. What do you mean heart transplant? What is that? What am I gonna do? They're like, oh, they're gonna take out this heart, put another one in. I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean
saying
take
this
out?
casually?
Yeah, very much casually. Yeah, pretty much. That's when I started getting like, wow, this is happening. Then that's when I started having a lot of questions, like, how's my life going to look like? Will I have to abandon this normalcy? And
Well,
then
heart transplant in the U.S.
Mhm.
and you're moving there and you're staying there. You
Mhm.
know, like these are like decisions that you. And not to say that like 15-year-olds like hold decision making and like they can say what they want to do, but it's really out of your will and your parents as
Mhm.
well, probably, because they moved with you, right?
Yeah. Except
Yeah.
my dad. He
Yeah.
stayed there. Yeah.
Oof.
It's we were bound to move to the US at some point. We always say this joke. It's like I just gave them the expedited ticket.
The thing with heart transplants is it's not easy to find a heart.
No.
So him telling you like, yeah, we're just gonna remove this heart and get a new one and put a new one in, like we can just go to the grocery store and do that. Like that's not the case. You know,
It's
like
not,
there's
yeah.
long years of wait listing. So Do they tell you that? Do they tell you like this might be a very long process? We don't know when we can get a heart in.
They don't tell me the negative part of it.
Okay.
They did tell me though, oh, you're gonna go there. That's Dr. Burji, he the one who was in the U.S. He explained you're gonna be put on the transplant waiting list. You're gonna wait for the heart, and then you're gonna receive a call. You get that call, you go get the heart, and that's it.
Okay.
I remember. To be fair, I think they did say, oh yeah, this may take months. I think they made us aware it may take long. But my age was an advantage.
How come?
They prioritize younger patients.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
When on that list, they put you higher.
Okay.
And also blood type helps. So if there's like if there's a blood type that's very much
Rare.
if it's rare, how I understood it, if it's rare, it's easier because in one aspect, I know, yes, maybe not many have it, but also not many are needing it.
Yeah.
Versus someone who can versus the alternative.
Yeah.
It's like, I couldn't grasp the idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how does the prep for moving to the United States in this like very short period of time happen?
So the 3 months ended. That's when I finally got discharged.
It felt good leaving the hospital?
Oh, absolutely. Big time. But here's the thing. The very next morning, this device, it has an alarm if something in the metrics goes off. The next morning it went off. Something was wrong. I went back to the hospital. They did some testing. They admitted me again. So the heart's rhythms were irregular. So they put a defibrillator as well. So I went in, did another procedure, stayed there for a week, and then I got discharged again.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how do you guys prep to moving to the United States on such short notice?
I remember not being involved in the process at all.
Okay, absolutely.
Yeah, I remember just being told, get your stuff ready and let's go. Yeah. And I think to some extent too, the bags were packed before I went back home too. Dr. Burji played a huge part in our transition also, because the team that he was working with, it's the team that I was transferred to, essentially. So that played a huge part in that swift transition, which really plays a huge role. I was very appreciative of that.
Did it feel real, them telling you that you need a heart transplant, or did it feel like a death sentence?
Good question. It didn't feel real, that's for sure. We had no idea such a thing existed. Not me, not my parents, not our family. So for someone to introduce that's a possibility, that itself is like I could not believe I was really going to go do that right now. Like I was going to the US to switch my heart. Did it feel like a death sentence? No.
Okay.
That part about me feeling so assured that nothing's gonna happen, that played a big part of it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of haziness in the story, but you come to America and you have time before a heart is available. So now you're going through another thing, which is assimilating to a brand new country.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it's definitely not easy with this bag next to you. And
Yeah.
So I did end up going to high school.
Okay.
That was March. So maybe there was like 2-3 months remaining in that school year. I was 10th grade at that point.
So you came March of 2018?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I remember we went to Dearborn High School. We signed up, we registered, everything. And I remember doing those tests before. We did those tests at Fortson just to see where where our level is to place, the placement tests. We did those at Fortson, and then we went to Dearborn High School to register. I remember needing to go have a meeting with all the teachers there, all the staff, with someone from the hospital, just to show them what this machine is and what it's all about, and that this student might need to go visit the nurse at this time or this time. And this is where back to normal 15-year-old Muhammad is like the embarrassment from stuff like that. That's when I started getting anxious. So anxiety in the hospital, subconscious. It's like, oh, I wasn't really showing it. Now it's like social life, me needing to handle this at the same time as handling school.
You're in America. You've lived in Lebanon your whole life.
Yeah, absolutely. It was okay. It was hard, not in the sense of I would say, yeah, it was hard to assimilate. Um, Life here in Dearborn was different than Lebanon, than what I was used to, and it was difficult to also make friends in that period of time, specifically from one point, the treatment, because once that year ended, I was going into my junior year.
Right.
So by the time I went into my junior year, I had already gotten my transplant. Well, let's stick to let's stick to only with the LVAD phase. People would ask me questions about it. Yeah, I remember I would sit and place the bag on my lap, just kind of go into the seat. It was okay. It wasn't as challenging as I expected it to be. That's what I would say.
What are the challenges of moving to a new country in general that you found?
For someone who's 15, leaving his friends, leaving, and I was telling you that specific period was the best period of my childhood. I'd say, things were going very well, and then having to move here, I was aware of why we needed to move here, so I was okay with the fact that we moved here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here to receive treatment because there's not that treatment in Lebanon, so I'm here for a better life. That's the idea I had in my.
Are
in
you
my head.
physically good back then?
Back then, weaker than now, obviously. I was very much physically limited to what I can do, because there's this bag, and then there's. So the bag essentially was basically a strap, the bag there, and then the wire was my biggest worry. Like, if something caught up to that and pushed, that was the biggest concern. But challenges to moving here, is that, honestly, the having this new environment, making friends, learning the new language, which is not, I don't mean English by it. I mean just like the common language used here in Dearborn and stuff like that. Learning their new interests, which I would say throughout high school I did not, I could not assimilate to that culture just yet.
I heard that there's a girl in your school back then
Yes, Zaharat.
that also had a similar case.
Yes.
So what role did she play in your psyche?
So Zaharat came into my life when I had gotten at that point I had gotten my transplant. I had gotten my transplant before she did.
Oh, you got your transplant before she did?
Yes. When hers happened, it was very fresh. And in fact, I remember she got her heart only 4 hours after getting on the list, which was huge. Yeah. I got mine 3 months after I was put on the list.
Okay, so you come in March, April, May, June. Almost.
June 18th of 2018. Sorry, June 19th of 2018. My bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So 4 hours after getting put on the list.
Her story was extremely amazing. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember where you were when you got the call that the heart is available?
It was like 3 a.m.
Oh, really?
It was 3 a.m.
That late they call?
Yeah. I was sleeping. My mom was sleeping as well. My mom received the call. She missed it though. But we woke up. She saw by like the last second it was Detroit. So we knew they were calling. She panicked. She woke up. She went to the hallway, and then my sister walked out of her room talking to someone. So they went down the list of calls. So they called my mom. She didn't answer. Then they called my sister.
Oh, there's multiple numbers on that list.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So they called my sister. She was talking to them. Hey, this is Nurse X. We found a heart for Mohammed. We need you guys to come in right now. Okay, hung up. dressed up. Went. That point was surreal because that point was like, okay, this is happening. Now, I'm getting this heart.
But okay, leading up to that, like in those 3 months,
Mm.
like do you have time to think about, okay, I'm going to have another person's heart in my body? Like the heart that I was born with, I have, they're going to remove, and another person's heart is going to live inside of me. Like, do you think about these things? Because I feel like it's weird, you know?
I do. But here's the thing, Jaafar. When that option is the only thing you have to, I guess, retain your normal lifestyle or like get your life back, you'd be surprised how okay you become with these things. So like this crazy idea that we might think in our heads becomes such a realistic thing that we're going through. And I was like, okay, this is my reality now. This is no longer this crazy movie that we usually see. So while those ideas, they make sense to have, I would think about it, but not to the extent that that I expected to. You know, I was like, okay, this is happening. Khalas, that's it. I wasn't like, it wasn't like a daunting thought where like I was thinking about it day and night. No, I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
When I got the call, I did start thinking like, wow, it's like someone had to die right now for me to get this second chance at life. That's the thought that I was having.
How did that make you feel?
I don't know. It was, I wouldn't say guilt specifically, because like the person's death is not obviously our responsibility. But now that I say responsibility is something that I started thinking about. Like now, this person's death is my responsibility in the sense of making it worth it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of now that this thought started brewing, you know. But otherwise, I was very much happy to get that transplant, because the LVAD, while yes, it was like it was life support. I was moving around, alhamdulillah, but I was on blood thinners. I was diabetic at that time as a result of this.
Oh, okay.
A lot of medications that are very tough on the body. So like my body felt very much frail while on the LVAD. So I was very much happy to get that transplant. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
3M gets the call. You all get in the car, huh?
Yeah. Yes. Went to call. Went to Detroit, Henry Ford. I love that hospital. There we spoke with I believe we spoke with anesthesia first, I guess. Because that's it. We were prepping for surgery.
You tell them I'm on my way, so they just start prepping for surgery.
They have a room ready. Go up that floor. Go in there.
Bro, my heart is racing just thinking about this. I can't imagine how it was when you guys are in the moment.
I was just smiling. I remember my mom took a picture of me and just wearing the gown. I was very much ready. I was like, let's do it. Yeah. Couple hours until I was taken into surgery. I kind of figured everything else. They were still getting the heart. I remember that the surgeon who did the surgery was on the helicopter going to grab it and come back. Yeah.
Oh, so
as we speak.
So they find a heart anywhere in America. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah, it wasn't in Michigan. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about the donor?
So they don't share much. A lot of it is confidential. They did say it was someone my age, which again added now to that responsibility. It's like someone, maybe my specific, maybe not 15, but someone who was young, lost their life. They didn't tell me how. And I don't think they told me gender. They just simply said it was someone your age.
Would you have liked to know more about your donor?
Absolutely.
Why?
And I kind of wanted to know who they were as a person, to see, like, there's this thought that people who get a heart transplant get their donor's personality, which is not true. But at least I would have at least liked to know who this person was. What if somehow I'm now a manifestation of them, and I'm living their life through me. And the biggest part is I wanted to comfort the family. And I wanted to show them that, hey, that this heart, like your loved one's heart, is now my responsibility, and I'm taking very good care of it. I want to tell them that. And you're gonna ask me whether I communicated with them, I'm assuming at some point, but so we can always send a letter to the donor family. So imagine that their loved one died, you got the heart.
Young too, Muhammad.
Young, big
Like
time.
50, like losing a 15-year-old
It's-
is different than losing someone in their 40s, 50s, 60s.
Exactly. How do I thank them for that? That's the first thought I have. What would I write in this letter that would express the gratitude that I'm feeling? That's like how?
Like
How?
you're alive.
Yeah, I'm alive because of their sacrifice, their donation, their gift. How, like, what can I say that's enough to thank them? And these thoughts, plus I would admit some negligence on my end, where I push the task of writing that letter. So I just now sent that letter after 7 years, because now I have something to show them. Now in my letter I told them, hey, I'm the recipient of your loved one's heart. I took very good care of it. I'm going to medical school, and I'm gonna help people do the same. Now I have something to give them. That's kind of what I was holding on for, and then I did it, and then I wrote that letter.
How do you start the letter?
I said I have no idea what. First of all, I apologize for taking so long to reach out. That's the first thing I said. I told them I have no idea. I had no words. I did not have the right words to express my gratitude. And I told them I was holding on to this moment where now I have something to give back for your gift. And I told them. And I told them a bit about myself. I didn't share everything because I told them this is a little bit about myself. I would love to know more about you guys and share a lot more about my journey. So if you're into it, just reach out to me and then we'll meet. So inshallah,
Would you like to meet them?
Absolutely. Yeah, why not? Because I hope they would see now, like, I know it's been 7 years. They probably they've been through their grief and all of that, but what if that person wanted to be a doctor and I had no idea? What if now I'm them? What if they looked like me? Like, they were young. I don't know what their ethnicity was. I don't know. What if they see their child in me, and that just makes them a million times happier? That's why I want to see them. Yeah.
Does that make you emotional at all when you think about it?
Yeah, it kind of adds a lot of not responsibility. Like, it makes me nervous because I always question whether I lived up to it. You know, that's the biggest thing. And to go back to Zaharat too. Zaharat wanted to be a cardiologist too. She had these aspirations. We talked about that when before she passed.
She passed away?
You didn't know?
No.
Yeah. She passed away a year after. That was a big moment, and everyone who knew her. In fact, she was the one who introduced me to Gift of Life Michigan, which is one of the main organizations that facilitates transplants here in Michigan. She initiated me getting into volunteering with them. And now, so she had a complication from with her transplant approximately a year after she got it.
How close were you with Zahra?
We were good friends, but we didn't have time to get closer. I feel like had we, and that factor about me being new there and her having lived there all her life. So we had different friend groups. So we weren't as close as I would have wanted to be, but I was very sure that if we had, let's say, graduated, started college, we were on the same path, we would have gotten very close. Absolutely. Because we had the same aspirations, we have the same motivation, we have the same experience, we knew each other's struggles. Like we understood.
She had her own version of the story that you also had.
Absolutely, yeah. It's unfortunate that she would have done amazing. She was she was like just a ball of fire, just so full of life. I remember her, even with the transplant. Like I was so impressed with her. I remember there's these tailgates they do in high school. That was all new to me, but I was in yearbook and taking pictures of that, and she was there running, playing with them. Obviously not as much as others. Obviously we have the transplant, but I was so impressed because I felt so limited as a result of my transplant physically, and in that sense, and we can hit that in a bit. But it's like she just, subhanallah, it's like the heart was made for her. She was back to normal. She was doing things I didn't imagine doing until much later. So it was very unexpected what happened. And
Did they tell you guys at school that Zaharat passed away? 'Cause remember, you're still in
it
school.
was posted. It was posted.
So you saw it as a post.
Yeah, and
Oof.
everyone denied it at first. Like, well, like, what do you mean she passed? Like, how? It was, and then when we realized it was,
But you received that news differently than everyone else's.
yeah,
Kind of, you were on that path.
yeah. I remember it was fresh the next day, I think. I was in Arabic class, and everyone, like, there's people who knew her, everyone was upset and stuff, and the teacher was aware of what's going on, and the teacher knew my story too. I was just sitting there, I was silent, just kind of contemplating things, and the teacher, she came up to me, she's like, I know this happened to her, but it doesn't mean it's gonna happen to you. Like, you don't need to worry about that. And it feels selfish to, like, think, oh, my worry was that now it's gonna happen to me, but you can't help but think of that. I still think of that till this day. Like, anything could happen, and that's a thought for anyone. Anything can happen to anyone, but specifically regarding complications with the heart, yeah, did I not think about it? No, I definitely thought about it. I was concerned, but I used what happened with her as further motivation. Now I'm adding the more, not a good responsibility for myself to kind of now live our dream together. Like I'm personally living both of our dreams at once.
Do you ever feel like your body's telling you something, but you're too tired or you're too busy to understand what's going on? I've been there. You crash midday. You think you're sleeping well. You have this notion that everything is just fine, but in reality, there are many underlying issues to your health that you don't know yet. And that's exactly why I started using Whoop. When I started using it and it started showing me the patterns and what I was doing that were affecting my health negatively, and then you see after you do these small changes, your health gets better. You start feeling better, moving better. And what I like about Whoop is that it focuses on what's important: your sleep, your strain, and your recovery. It gives you real metrics that tell you when to push and when to slow down. This was never available to us in the way that Whoop has it. And because you listen to Not From Here, Whoop wants you to try their product out for a month for free. Go to join.whoop.com/notfromhere, order your Whoop, try it out, and you'll feel exactly what I'm explaining to you right now. Again, that's join.whoop.com/notfromhere, or just hit the link in the description below. And now back to the episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she was going into cardiology as well.
Yeah.
It's crazy, these people that you meet along the way.
Yeah.
That leave like such a mark. Like, I'm pretty sure when you got accepted to med school, you thought about Zaharat and you were like,
she was in my personal statement.
Oh wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
What did you say about her in your personal statement?
Pretty much what I said now. I said because I first of all introduced how much of an impact she had on my experiences, in the sense of, again, she introduced me to that volunteering, and that played a huge part in my experiences. But also I said how, while her loss is defeating, But now I use her story and her goals, our shared goals now, as further motivation for me just to keep going. How she played even a huge role in solidifying my intention of becoming a physician. She was definitely an integral part of this. Yeah. I don't speak of it much. I don't like tell people that, but it's still the reality.
So you arrive at the hospital for the transplant. The transplant goes successful as planned.
Alhamdulillah.
Nothing go okay.
Mm-hmm.
What are the consequences of the transplant in terms of your health, how your lifestyle has to change, like all these things?
Very good question. So this new heart, it's a foreign body.
Right.
So if there's a foreign body coming into your system, your own immune system will want to attack it. Good. It's the same case here. So now you're on a medication your entire life, which are immunosuppressants. And so they essentially weaken your immune system so that it doesn't attack your heart. And so speaking of recovery, I stayed in the hospital after my transplant for 3 weeks simply because I was waiting for that level of immunosuppression to stabilize. It's a very important medication. So there's that. So yes, you're on medications your entire life, which is fine. You know, you're back. You got your life back. Alhamdulillah. Your immune system being weaker, you're more prone to diseases. Obviously, you're gonna get sick more often. And if you're someone who, when they get sick, they get a pretty significant cold, which is someone who, like myself. So I get sick often, and it's pretty bad every single time. So it's pretty inconvenient.
So when you were sick last week, could you attribute it somehow to this?
I was just coming back from overseas, so I'm assuming I caught something from the plane.
Okay.
Or also my friend was sick when I first saw him after I came back. So I would say yes, honestly. Maybe people would not have gotten it that easy.
Yeah. But you're always on these immunosuppressants.
Mm-hmm.
Always,
Yeah.
until now.
But for example, I sometimes see people where I work. We sometimes get patients that are they just have a cold randomly. I've gotten sick at work maybe like 5 to 6 times in the span of like just a couple months. It's very much inconvenient, but it's like what can you do? And that's the risk of me going into this field, by the way. And like some people told me, like I believe my sister, she told me like, why would you want to go into this? You're putting yourself at risk. Like your immune system is weak. You shouldn't expose yourself to diseases on purpose. Which I just need to take extra precaution, masks, washing hands.
Yeah.
It's not like limiting in the sense of I can't do anything to figure this out, but it is inconvenient, I would say.
In terms of physical activity, you can't do much.
Couldn't. I would say. Yeah.
Okay, good.
So, and I would like to comment something both about myself and Zaharat, just to kind of have explain some things for people who may not know. So the most fragile part of a transplant is that first year.
Okay.
Once you pass that first year, the risk of rejection and also complications goes down by a lot. So the first year is the hardest by far, in the sense of taking those extra precautions, and 2 I had to do a lot of physical therapy just to kind of practice getting back in shape a bit.
Getting your heart rate a little up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have a lot of appointments. So we do these biopsies to check for rejection in the heart, whether the heart is being rejected by the body. When we first get the transplant, I was doing those 3 times a week. And then they go into once a week, and then once a month, once every 3 months, every 6 months, every year. And now I don't even do them anymore. But you have a lot of appointments, a lot of visits, a lot of tests, a lot of meds that first year. Then everything gets better. You just continue to get better by the year.
Okay.
Yeah. So physical in terms of, I still am physically limited in some aspects, but compared to that first year, no, I'm improving as time moves on.
Like, would you be able to play a full soccer game?
Yes.
Okay.
Will I? let me comment a bit about that. So,
Okay.
When they do a heart transplant, with the previous heart, there's some nerves that they sever.
Okay.
When they sever these nerves, there's a cardiac reflex when it comes to, like, I guess when you're in physical activity and you want the heart to start beating, that cardiac reflex is gone.
Okay.
Or is very much diminished in me now because they severed those nerves when they're putting in that new heart. So for example, let's say I sprinted now just like here to the end of the room, for example. For you, it might take you, let's say, a minute to kind of get back to baseline. I'm gonna need a good 10 minutes to get back on track. So in that soccer game, for example, I'm gonna be extremely short of breath until I'm like 45 minutes in. That's when my body finally, my heart realizes, okay, this is the heart rate I need to be at, and then I'm kind of better. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's a struggle that I really, really want to research once I get to that point, because that specifically is very inconvenient. Like, because now my heart depends on hormones more than nerves. So it takes longer for it to get that signal to kind of beat faster.
Right.
Yeah. So there's that inconvenience. Otherwise, weightlifting is fine. You can pretty much do anything you want.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That first year, you're limited to a lot of things. I remember my doctor was like, "Don't go on roller coasters. Don't sit in the front seat of the car."
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, that's only because of the wound was still fresh, like the incision. But the roller coasters thing was so funny. What do you mean? Why can't I? Or don't watch scary movies. So they didn't want to spook the heart, essentially.
Yeah.
They're like, wait on that for a bit.
That's so interesting.
It really is. It's very fascinating. But now, I'd say I'm pretty much very normal.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Alhamdulillah.
I wonder, do you feel pressure when something like this happens? I'll explain what I mean. It's when you go through these big life experiences, you always feel like this happened for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And then the struggle to find that reason, I think, increases the more the experience is intense, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So in your situation, this is just the first time I hear the story, just a couple points I'm going to hit on. You, 15, didn't know was sick, went to the hospital, coma for 2 weeks, surgery 1, you got to move to America, the heart transplant, losing a fellow friend a year after from a heart transplant complication. And then you sit after Zaharat passes away and you're like, I really need to make something out of my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Very much so. That is something I think about so often. Whether I'm doing this because I really want it, or I'm doing this because my life was orchestrated to do this. You know what I mean? Like, do I really want to do cardiology and be a doctor? Or do I feel like I have to do cardiology and be a doctor?
I wanted to ask you that.
There are times when I thought that I have to be. And I talked to this about my friends. I talked to this with my friends sometimes. I told them I'm scared of even thinking about another specialty. I'm scared to even consider another specialty. Because then the story wouldn't be complete.
Yeah.
This is a thought I always have. Then the circle won't be full if I don't do this. This 15-year-old gets a life-saving heart transplant, becomes a doctor, treats the skin. No, that doesn't work. No, he has to treat the heart. He has to do transplants. And look, I love medicine. I cannot see. Here's the thing. I would be successful doing anything else. I can be an engineer. I can be whatever other thing there is. I just don't want to. I know that medicine is something that I really want to do, but then cardiology is my full potential really at cardiology? What if I'm very much like competent in something else? What if something else will be the thing that I'm great at, but then I just stick to cardiology because this is for the story? You know, I don't know.
Look, I think time will allow you to figure that out, you know.
But I'm scared that I won't allow myself to figure that out. I'm scared that I will be put in those new opportunities. I will see those different specialties, but then I will still say, no, I'm going to do cardiology.
I like to believe that God always gives you signs.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to ask you a little bit about the signs that God gave you or you saw, and you were like, oh, God is really speaking to me directly. And me not even knowing, I'm pretty sure you had those moments.
Absolutely.
But even with what you're going to, like your path now, for people who still don't know, you got just accepted to Wayne State Medical School.
I did.
Congratulations. It's a huge accomplishment. But I feel like God will always show you the right path instinctually. You know, you'll have a feeling. And maybe it is cardiology. Maybe that like passion that you have for it now, maybe you wouldn't have had it if you hadn't gone through what you needed to go through. Because from what I understand from medicine is that cardiology is one of the most difficult fields it's very competitive. It's hard to go to. And sometimes you need people that are obsessed to make it into these very high positions where no one else is there, right? And maybe for you,
this is
the story had to be that you go through this, so you're obsessed. And to be honest, the way you're talking about it, it sounds like you're obsessed with cardiology. And it's not a bad thing. This might be the reason why you went through all this, because we need a person like you in that position. You know what I mean? So you'll always have signs.
As much as I say, this is kind of putting an obstacle in the way of like exploring other things. I feel what you just said, that where this field kind of, I was made to be into that field, and to speak about those experiences that you said I have. Yes, I definitely had those signs from Allah that maybe this is where you should be. I was once shadowing the surgeon who did my transplant at Henry Ford. I shadowed him, and we were doing rounds, and he saw a patient who was just fresh out of a transplant, and he told him, "Hey, this is Mohammed. He got a transplant back in 2018. Look at him now. He's shadowing me." That patient, he looked at me. His eyes were just like, it's like they looked at hope. And honestly, I think, like, I'm not sure how that might sound, but yes, I think I may be that hope for patients. Yeah, well, I look back at my 15-year-old self, like when I had no idea what was going on. If I saw a doctor in front of me who has been through what I'm currently going through as a transplant patient, so you are living proof that I'm gonna be okay and successful after this. Yeah, I'm gonna be that. Yeah, I would love to be that. That's like sign of hope, that inspiration. That's my biggest goal.
Yeah.
If you were asking me what I want from life, I want to be an inspiration. And did God orchestrate it for me to be that? I think so. And that's why when I say, oh, do I have to be a cardiologist? It's not that I have to be. It's now this is that I was just given a chance to be someone that people look up to be a role model, to be an inspiration, just by going through this experience. And you're telling me that I'm gonna let this go? Absolutely not. No, I'm gonna walk all the way through and be that inspiration. So, alhamdulillah, yeah, Allah gave me the signs to show me that this is where I need to be.
Were there signs from God during the heart transplant experience?
During the heart transplant experience, Well, honestly, Jaafar, you tell me, when you hear the story of how I even got the transplant, would you not say that this is like a once in a lifetime chance? Like how would this doctor from the U.S. who specialized in this surgery just have moved into to Lebanon 2 weeks after I got admitted
At that
and-
specific hospital.
At that specific hospital, and I be one of his very first patients there, and him connecting me to his team here. Like what?
Yeah.
How? And like I don't know.
I want to tell you something just on that point before, about you being that hope and inspiration. A lot of the conversations that I have on here, during the conversation, the guests always, a lot of the times, especially when they're very successful, a lot of the times they go through their careers trying to be a person that they wished someone was for them at a younger age. So it's kind of this trend, and I do get the pull that you feel, that is it just purely out of emotion that I'm going into this, but maybe that's necessary, you know, being that doctor that you wish was there for you, as good as Dr. Burji was. I'm pretty sure you wanted your own spin on it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate enough to have experienced the care of many great doctors. Besides Dr. Burji, there's these doctors at Henry Ford, even doctors in Lebanon. And what's great about experiencing those good doctors is you kind of take a bit from each person's approach and personality, and then you apply it yourself. You take what worked for you and you found super helpful as a patient, and then you apply it there. So yeah, alhamdulillah, I'm grateful for that.
You know, studies show that 46.9% of organ donors or organ transplants experience severe depression after their transplant. That's a big number, around 50%. Did you experience anything like that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
My age helped a lot. I had good support with me as well. My family, my mom especially. I had my friends. So I know I don't think, alhamdulillah, I did not struggle with that at all. I can see how it may though. I can very much, and faith played a huge role in that, honestly, big time. When I tell you that, when I had zero thought of like something was gonna go wrong with my treatment, I was putting full faith in Allah. Nothing like he got me. Even now, like subhanallah, I was given the second chance at life, and now we're just talking maybe I was given the second chance at life to save someone's life specifically, maybe just one person specifically later when I'm a doctor, and maybe that's my whole purpose. And Allah's gonna keep me alive and well until I reach there. Having that faith, having that trust, really makes it difficult to go into this depressive mood, for me personally at least.
But if I was a fly on the wall, and one of those times you sat down and talked to God, what would I have heard when you were going through all this?
A lot of it is, when I'm going through this is, that's a good question. Wallah, when I was actively through it, I did not have much thought. But then as I'm done, that's when the reflection happened. I don't know. I was stuck with my mom. Like, let's say I was actively through this. A lot of it is me talking to my mom. I was reassuring her to some extent, because that I was telling you, one challenge is me and the other is her. I was telling her, Mama, alhamdulillah, I would tell her I'm fully trusting in Allah that I'm gonna be okay. So you should too. I was continuously saying alhamdulillah. I don't remember a specific conversation or things that I would say. I remember I'm aware of the reflections I have after, but a lot of it was me just being reassuring to myself and mom through the trust in Allah.
must feel amazing for your mom to see where you are today. You know?
Absolutely.
I'm pretty sure you were telling her, Mom, I got accepted at Wayne State. I'm staying close to home.
Absolutely.
After everything that happened is...
I cannot imagine what she went through as a parent. I'm not a parent yet, obviously. But to see her child going through all of that is unreal. I swear. Like, her experience and mine are equal, I would say. Our struggles. Because imagine, because a lot of the time I was asleep when she was going through it. There's a lot of pictures I saw when I was still in the hospital in Lebanon where they're pushing me on pushing the bed to go somewhere, and I have this line of people just like crying next to me as they like see me walk. Like, imagine I did not have to see all that. My sister did, my mom did. So, yeah.
A lot of times we're scared of change. And I mean, that goes to all aspects of your life. One of them, as simple as it is the products that we consume. We've gotten so used to the mainstream cola and sodas of the world that when a product like Palestine drinks comes up, we tend to feel hard to switch. But that's exactly the problem that they solved. They made a very high quality cola that does not compromise on taste at all. And the essence of this company was to help the people back home in Palestine. So 100% of the profits of Palestine drinks go directly to the people of Palestine. And they're just coming out with this new orange flavor that they have. Phenomenal. I think this is the best flavor that they have. And you're about to start seeing it soon. Wherever you got your Palestine drinks, you're about to start finding this new orange flavor. So make sure to check it out whenever you get a chance. And now, back to the episode. Yeah, she like you said, during all of this, you don't have time to process. But she was the one, those late nights sitting between her and her thoughts, seeing you unconscious in front of her, and just having to live with that.
Like, she had to consider the fact that I may not make it, which that in itself is
terrifying.
Absolutely.
Maybe for you'll be like, you know what? If I pass away, I pass away. God takes me back. But for her, losing her youngest boy is...
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Alhamdulillah. She's a strong woman. Alhamdulillah.
What are some things that no one knows about what you went through during that phase?
Honestly, the side effects and complications of the transplants are some things I find myself hesitant to like speak of, because I feel like they kind of place like a red flag on me not as a person. Obviously, it doesn't reflect anything on my personality, but just it's kind of like weaknesses that someone who hasn't gone through a transplant doesn't have. You know, certain and that's all side effects of the medications and then the surgery itself. These are things that I like to tend to keep to myself, because they kind of I don't attribute them as a weakness per se, but they're not something I like to share. You know, because they kind of instill fear and confusion in people.
What's one thing that we didn't talk about today that you think we should have?
So, when we get a transplant, it's not specifically a lifetime solution. Similar to how the previous heart fails, the new one has another challenge where it can be rejected by the body. And that is a concern in the first year, second, 10th, 20th. Me getting this transplant is not essentially a ticket for 50 years of life. And there's this fact that we all believe, subhanAllah, someone could walk down the street and get hit by a car. But that's one thing, but also another thing is knowing that this heart that you have right now may not last you forever. Versus, for example, you may not even have that thought ever. Someone who didn't have a transplant may not think, oh, my heart is going to fail me at some point. But no, someone who has a transplant always keeps the thought that this heart is not staying forever. Or like just the complications of having a transplant. I didn't mention this. About a year into my own transplant, and that's the result of the medications. those medications really are, as important as they are, they're really tough on the body, at least within the first couple years. I woke up one day with this very bad pain right here in my stomach. We went to the hospital. They did some testing. They found lesions on the liver. They looked into these lesions. Now, I say this just to explain it as what it was, but it's not exactly that. So it's called PTLD, post-transplant lymphomatic disorder. The doctors kind of explained it as like a minor form of cancer. And that's a complication of being a transplant recipient, being on the meds. I just didn't expect it to happen so soon. But so I got that complication. I had to go through rounds of like immunotherapy, which are not exactly chemo.
Yeah.
Just one step under.
They can't do chemo?
I didn't need chemo.
Okay.
Yeah. I did that. Alhamdulillah. Scans now are clear. They've been clear, but you can't, for like me right now, I cannot say, oh khalas, I'm good. I will not have any more complications for the remaining of my journey. I can't say that.
So it really never stops.
No.
It just
No. And that is the scary part, but
because when you were explaining to me that, okay, now you can kind of play sports and do these things, I'm like, oh, okay, so life actually becomes normal again, but it really doesn't, because there's always this thought that this might fail at any time.
Yes. While I think about it often, I don't let it consume me or run my life. It's not like now I have to do things faster as a result. What can I do, besides that? I just hope that Allah gives me enough time to reach the point in my career that I want to reach, where I can finally actively help people and actively do transplants and stuff like that. Until then, I just need to take the best care of myself as I can, remain physically active, take my medications on time, keep up with testing and stuff, and that's it. It's much simpler than it is, but there are some things to think about, obviously.
I was thinking about this. If you had the opportunity to talk to Zaharat before she passed away, knowing that she was going to pass away, what would that conversation, what were words that you would have liked for her to know?
Wow, that's a good question. I would have said I wish we knew each other more, or I wish we gotten closer, because I feel like it would have been, we would have done so many things together, like contributing to the transplant community. I feel like we would have done so much. We would have been such an inspiration together as a whole, to our community, to our school. Like being one person is one thing, but having two young people getting a transplant, becoming doctors, advocating for this, we would have done. I would have talked about how much we could have achieved together. That's all I have to learn. And speaking of that, one thing I wish we talked about more right now together is the lack of education on organ donation and transplants here in our community.
Yeah.
That is something huge. And while I started some efforts to kind of tackle it, they're not enough. And that's definitely a priority.
Where do you think the lack of education is exactly when it comes to this subject?
I'll tell you. I kind of want to keep my organs to myself when I get buried. Oh, shouldn't we go back to the grave how we came with all our organs? I don't want someone opening me up after I die. So these things, they're fair to say. Like, I'm not going to tell someone what to think. But lack of at least one religious understanding of what that entails, and lack of knowing the impact of a transplant itself, that combined leads to this misinformation. Or when a lot of people say, oh, if they see I'm a donor, the doctors won't work hard enough to save me. Now, I don't know. what I know is the doctors took an oath to save people's lives, no matter what, despite knowing anything. So, and my surgeon, he once like answered that question. He said, we work equally hard to save anyone's life despite them being a donor or not. And I believe that, and I'm gonna obviously instill that as a physician. Do I think it's fair to use that as an excuse not to be a donor? Maybe not. People are free to do what they want, but there's definitely still a lot of lack of education when it comes to that, still till this day.
So you sound like you've dug into it.
Mhm.
What's the hiccup? Is the religious ruling contradicting with? Is there a contradiction between the religious ruling on organ donation and?
I once did a seminar where we asked religious scholars here in our community from both sects what the ruling is, like what are things we need to consider. And honestly, after I did it, when I looked at them, it kind of felt like it felt silly to them why that was a question. You know what I mean? In the sense of, like, yeah, it's permissible. Why are we even talking? And not like why are we even talking about it, but it felt simpler than we have made it to be. That's what I feel like we actively complicate things when they're not as complicated. I can't speak of all Islamic sects that we have. What I know and what I've been told, that getting a transplant is permissible, and but there's conditions to giving organs. Okay. Now, take what I say as a grain of salt. Because I don't know all the details.
And of course, everyone should go and ask and do their own research on it.
To donate organs as a Muslim, I believe you need to have that written in your will.
Okay.
Or have people know that, like, explicitly, that this is your intention. Because when people go on life support in Islam, we can't take them off. I think there's very specific exceptions that I'm not aware of. So having that will is extremely important, because that saves your parents or your family making that decision for you. And after what I went through, what's stopping someone else from going through what I went through and also being equally uneducated about heart transplants, about organ donation, about everything? It's definitely something to talk about with your family. Like, let's say this happened to you. What would you do? What would you want to do?
Especially your life was normal.
Exactly. Before that. Exactly. So why not save the time to adjust then and just talk about it now?
Yeah.
That's definitely big. A big initiative of mine is increasing the amount of donors that we have, because a lot of people die on waiting lists, just waiting for an organ. Like, why does that need to happen? I know that having a lot more donors doesn't specifically mean all the people on the waiting list will get an organ, but still, it's gonna help. Why not? Imagine leaving, like, your final act in life is giving life. What better blessing can you get? That's kind of thing I want to advocate, and our community is definitely needing it.
You know, to be honest with you, throughout this conversation, I was thinking about how fascinating it is that someone passed away, but you kind of continued their life, or like their heart stayed alive. And prior to this, I had no knowledge or experience with anyone who had an organ transplant. So it kind of never crossed my mind. And if someone would bring it up, I'm like, bringing something up that really never happens. Like, or at least that's what my head tells me.
Exactly.
Like, this is so foreign.
Exactly.
That why is this even getting brought up? But now, after having this conversation, listening, it's like, no, Muhammad's here today because someone donated their heart. And I'm personally gonna ask and look into it too, and I want to know
hope you do.
exactly how it is, because
Absolutely.
you really never know when you're in that situation. You know, like, who's to say that our children aren't going to be living this normal, regular life, and then one day the world flips upside down?
And Jaafar, we never really talked about the cause of how this all happened.
That's true.
And The simple answer is I don't know. No clue. So the way they defined the diagnosis was heart failure as a result of an infection, which it was. Did they know what the infection was? No. Till this day. No clue. No idea what happened.
Not genetic in any way?
Not genetic at all. No family history. No family history. That's why this adds to the unexpectedness of this whole thing. That it can literally happen to anyone. I met someone here. There's a doctor that I knew at Henry Ford. He reached out to me. He's like, hey, there's this patient that she went to Lebanon. She got sick there. Her heart failed there. She got put on the LVAD and moved back here, and she needs a transplant. Do you mind talking to her and sharing your experience? So the exact same thing happened with her.
Yeah.
From a viral infection. And she's a mom with kids.
Oh, she's older.
She's older. She's a mom. She has kids. And imagine her having to go through all that. That's insane. So it can happen at any point to anyone. But alhamdulillah, she got her transplant. She's doing very well. And it's these moments that you start to appreciate how much you can do, you can help, you can share these stories, you can inspire, you can support each other.
Do you feel like she's receptive or she's happy when you talk to her and when you share your experience?
Alhamdulillah, based on what she told me, I feel like I helped at least a little just to kind of share what she would have to go through as a transplant patient. Because when I met her at first, she was still on the LVAD.
Yeah.
And I would see her. I remembered myself when I had the LVAD. I swear, if you look at people with LVADs and then when they get the transplant, it's like someone who's shriveled and then you put life back into them, like you hydrate them.
Yeah.
I swear, and that's how it was. And I told her what to look out for as a transplant patient, what to do, what not to do, what's gonna be difficult, what's not gonna be difficult, and just that reassurance. Okay, if you see someone who's going through what you went through, but is already years into it, and they're looking great, right? You're gonna say, okay, alhamdulillah, I think
There's a chance.
Yeah, I'll be fine. You know. And that's all it needs. It's all it needs when you're in the hospital. You just need that hope. You need that assurance, that comfort. I can't wait to provide that, you know?
Yeah. You never had that hope, though. And here you are, being a hope for other people.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. Subhanallah. That's why I went through this whole thing. Because, you know, Jaafar, if I was thinking about that very recently. If I did not get this transplant, if I did not get sick, let's say, and I still moved to the US, I don't think I would have been a doctor ever. Or at least not for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Absolutely not for the right reasons.
That's what I was saying when we were talking earlier. I was like, maybe you needed to be this obsessed to get to that point.
Yeah.
And doctors calling you and be like, come share your experience. I feel like those are signs too. Like God is using you to make their life or their experience a little smoother and easier. And it's like, here, you see, you can actually make people feel better through your experience. So continue.
And Jaafar, you asked me for those signs too. SubhanAllah, a lot of opportunities opened up to me just from my transplant. If I didn't have that history and I was a pre-medical student, I wouldn't have gotten those same experiences. I would not have been as impressive. I wouldn't have had that same knowledge. So at one point we just started a club at Wayne State. It was I guess a journaling club, I believe, and we hosted a doctor there just to go through his experiences with us, kind of share his journey. He was a cardiology fellow at that point, I believe. And I had shared my story with him, and after we finished that meeting, he took me to the side. He's like, man, I really liked your story. He's like, I think other people should know your story. And from that point, me and him worked together, and I published an article about my story in one of like those big cardiology journals. And that itself, for example, now I added this to my experiences for medical school. And a lot of these similar opportunities showed up because of my story and what happened. Now I think, like, alhamdulillah, it happened then. You know? Yeah. It opened a lot of things to me. It made me a more accomplished person. And that's just regardless of just the motivation that I got from from it happening. So
And it makes you more mature too. It made you mature way
I
earlier than you were supposed to.
I do believe that, yeah.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah, yeah.
But no, this was great. I hope everyone like listens to this and is able to draw inspiration into their own lives, whatever they're going through. They don't need to be going through a transplant, but just the nature of your experience is so inspiring. And thank you for coming and sharing your story.
Absolutely. I'm glad I was able to share my journey, and hopefully people learn something from this. And if they have any questions, I hope they'll research it now and maybe reach out to me or reach out to anyone that can help them.
Your contact info is going to be in the description, so
Absolutely.
they'll be able to do that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jaafar.